Bring home the beef this October at the new Lloydminster Nissan. Finance any new vehicle with the new Lloydminster Nissan, and you'll get a quarter of beef at Diamond 7 Meats for free. Selection is at its best at the new Lloydminster Nissan with an amazing lineup of cars, trucks, and SUVs, like the incredible Nissan Pathfinder and very popular Nissan Rogue. Finance a new Nissan Frontier and fill your freezer this winter. Bring home a new Nissan and bring home the beef only at the new Lloydminster Nissan, now on Highway 17 South. The new Lloydminster Nissan. We won't sell you a car, we'll help you buy one.
Local people. Local news and events. Local sports. Local matters. For all things Lloydminster area, this is Live with Kurt Price.
Welcome into the new Lloydminster Nissan, now located on Highway 17 South. And for the month of October, you can finance a new vehicle with the new Lloydminster Nissan, and you get a free quarter of beef from Diamond 7 Meats. So finance and get that freezer full of beef. It's the perfect time of year to stock that freezer. Plus, get winter ready in our service department right now. Get 25% off wheel alignments, 15% off battery maintainers and in-cabin heaters. Plus, get a winter inspection, block heater, and coolant test for just $19.99, only here at the new Lloydminster Nissan. Adam Tremblay is here and is running for the NDP in this year's Saskatchewan provincial election. So we'll meet Adam and get to know him and a bit more, as well as some of his ideas for the Lloydminster riding and the NDP as well. It's not just a name, it is Superior Water. Superior Water has two locations in Lloydminster, and they're open on Sundays to make filling your big blue jugs a whole lot quicker and a whole lot easier. And if you want great tasting water to come right from your tap, you can call Superior Water and ask about their under the sink reverse osmosis system. 780-875-6636. I drink Superior Water because I like the taste, and I believe it is superior water. Superior Water, open on 57th Avenue Monday to Friday, 8 to 6, Saturdays and Sundays, 10 to 5, and they have a coin-operated location by 7-Eleven just off Highway 17 South. The ace not drawn last night in the Lloydminster Exhibitions chased the ace. That means there are now 24 cards remaining in the deck and a jackpot that starts this week at over $83,000. Next week's draw, 7:30 on Wednesday night, and you can go to lloydx.com, get all the details, pick up a ticket for just $10. Well, it is a really busy weekend again, with the Kinsmen hosting their Harvest Hoedown in the WLS Convention Center. The Bobcats have a pair of home games, and there's a card show and a wedding and graduation show happening at the Gold Horse Casino. So let's start there. The Border City Card Show will take place on Saturday, 11 to 5 at the Gold Horse Casino. Jeff Woywitka and Al Stewart both played in the NHL. They'll be signing autographs. It's just $5 to get in. There are 53 vendors. That means 53 tables. Proceeds go to the United Way. Now, Sunday is the Olive Shoes Wedding and Graduation Show. Brides that take their wedding party of 4 or more will get in for free. Otherwise, entry is $10. And Nicole told us the show is earlier this year, and that's because everyone needs to get a good jump on their plans for both graduation and those summer weddings.
Well, it's a good chance to get started if you haven't already, but a lot of grads, this is the time to start looking for those things and have them, under their belt and prepared, as well as for brides. People are booking a year in advance for DJs, for photography, for all these different vendors. It's definitely something that they need to be taking quite seriously earlier than later, for sure.
Now, that show also runs at the Gold Horse Casino from 11 to 5. And the Kinsmen hosting their annual Harvest Hoedown. That's at the WS Convention Center Saturday night. And new Lloydminster Nissan, proud to be one of the sponsors. Last chance to get tickets, really. And you can call Darcy at 780-871-4818. Main Street and JD Bixby are performing. Doors open at 7. Dance is at 8. Myself and Heather Price will be your MCs for that one. Lloydminster District Co-op is teaming up with the Lloydminster Exhibition this year to once again present Trunk or Treat. That's coming up on Monday already here. It's a free event for trick-or-treaters, and it runs from 3 to 6:30. Now, last year, Haley Alexander told us that they served 3,000 attendees. This year, they're planning on 5,000 attendees. And as I mentioned, Lloydminster Bobcats are home to Devon think it's Devon's first trip to Lloyd. Tomorrow night at 7 p.m. The Cats are coming off a big 5-2 win over Camrose on Wednesday afternoon that happened at the Camrose Hockey Hooky game. So it's nice to win on Hockey Hooky Day because the arena is sold out in the opposing barn. The Cats host Bonnyville on Saturday, and they've already beaten Bonnyville twice this year. So both those games start at 7 o'clock at the Civic Center. Now, Spectre Fest is this weekend. That's a 24-hour gaming session that Mike Vanny told us is in memory of his brother Jason, and it will be a fundraiser for Crohn's and Colitis of Canada.
Crohn's and Colitis gives us a donation page every year. And so you can access that page by visiting tinyurl.com/specfest2024. And what that'll do is it'll take you directly to the page. There's a big purple donate button right at the very top of that page. That page also shows the video that we made for this year that kind of just talks about the event, what to expect, why we do it, things like that. And then it's got kind of our story in there as well.
A lot of stuff focused around Halloween these days, and it may be the spooky season now, but very soon it will be time to put those poppies on. Saturday, October 26th is Poppy Day, and plenty of Legion members, including myself, will be out selling poppies by donation. So if you're proud of that poppy and the sacrifice of our Canadian soldiers, then Heather and I want you to join us this spring as we head to Europe on a once-in-a-lifetime trip to see war memorials, battlefields, museums, and a whole lot more. We're going to start in Amsterdam, and we'll visit Grosbeek. That's a Canadian War cemetery. We'll also do a concentration camp. We'll travel through Brussels into France. We'll see Dunkirk, Vimy Ridge, and on June 6th, we will be at Normandy. We'll be on Juno Beach on June the 6th. So go to lamberttravel.ca today. You can see the whole trip. It's all planned out there for you. It takes you through what's happening each and every day. It's a trip that I'll say we planned and really customized, but it was really Heather who went through and said, this is what we need to make sure that we see. Yes, that's interesting, but it doesn't concern our Canadian soldiers. We want to see where our Canadian soldiers fought, where our Canadian soldiers remain. 780-875-4414. BioClean Disaster Services is Lloydminster's largest restoration company. They're also Lloydminster's local restoration company. They're certified, reliable, and will help get your life back. BioClean Disaster Services at 1-833-246-8326. Taking care of you and your belongings and your property is what they do, with the focus on the you and a focus on your family. That's what makes them local. That's what makes them stand out. 1-833-246-8326. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to introduce you to Adam Tremblay.
At Lloydminster and District Co-op, membership matters more. Because being part of a co-op means you're connected to something bigger than yourself. From long-held legacy by those who built our communities, to people you call family, friends, and neighbors. When you're a Lloyd Co-op member, you're an owner in a local business that prides itself on purpose alongside profit. You earn cash back, you help support causes that matter most, and you're building a better way of life for the next generation. Membership matters more.
How can you help support the oil and gas industry and jobs in Western Canada? The answer is closer than you think. Sell your scrap metals to PWM Steel. PWM sells scrap iron to Evraz, located in Regina. Evraz's #1 customer is the energy sector, building pipes and plates for the oil and gas industry. PWM Steel is your locally owned metal recycler and steel service center in the area. Plus, they're a strong supporter of the community. PWM Steel, your top steel supplier for Alberta and Saskatchewan for 40 years.
At Jason Arden Associates Cooperators, we're proud to be a top-rated local insurance company that offers flexible solutions and expert advice for all your insurance and investment needs. We'll work with you to tailor your insurance specific to your needs, and we offer investment advice that always puts you first. At Cooperators, one of our core values is to give back to the communities that we live in. Thanks to the support of our clients in Lloydminster and area, in 2023, Jason Arden Associates has donated $40,000 to local nonprofits, charities, students, athletes, and other special events. How does your insurance company support our community?
It's more than just taxes at L&A CPA. Assurance, accounting, retirement planning, estate planning, business consulting, financial consulting, farm program support, and bookkeeping. But yes, there is always taxes. The team at LNA CPA is committed to helping you achieve your best results and will be there to assist you every step of the way. LNA CPA, with offices in Provost, Vermilion, and Lloydminster.
Hey, welcome back. I want to introduce you to Adam Tremblay, and we'll do that in just a moment. First, I want to tell you about Wellings of Lloydminster. Wellings of Lloydminster is a community that is a very active community for those who are 55 and over. Now, this type of living has been a long time coming to Lloydminster. There really wasn't anything between going from your home and going into a senior facility. Well, this is that bypass. This is where it comes in and gives you the freedom to travel and not have to worry about a big home. Because a lot of people, they get to that point in their life where they want to start traveling, want to start doing more. Hey, they might want to start on a war memorial tour. And, you know, we're going to be gone for 2 weeks. What happens to your house while you're gone? Well, you won't have to worry about that when you're taking trips that at some points for some snowbirds last a heck of a lot longer than that. And you'll be worry-free with having someone that is cutting your grass, somebody that's checking in on your facility, somebody that is shoveling snow, because it is maintenance-free living. And the best thing that you could do is just call Darlene. If this is something that interests you, or maybe, you know, you're starting to worry about your health and shoveling and cutting grass and stuff like that is starting to become a little bit of a trouble, the best thing to do is call Darlene. She'll walk you through. She'll take you through one of these. You get a private tour at 780-872-8537. Yeah, welcome back inside the new Lloydminster Nissan. Now, Adam Tremblay is running in the Lloydminster constituency. He would like to be your MLA. And Adam is a school teacher out in Paradise Hill. And so he's taken some time out of teaching today to be here. So we appreciate that, Adam. Thanks for coming in.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here. And actually, this is the hardest thing that I've had to do. I have actually taken a leave of absence for the next 10 school days to focus entirely on campaigning. This was an incredibly difficult decision for me, but this is a very important election, and so I do feel the resolve to do something like this because it is important. But yeah, stepping out of my classroom was definitely difficult for sure.
So I said you're a teacher. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What do we need to know about Adam Tremblay?
Sure. Well, like I said, I'm originally born on Cape Breton Island. That's where I grew up. I saw firsthand the importance of hard work through my parents, particularly my father, who worked 33 and a half years at the local pulp mill and really taught me what it means to work hard, right? Because if something is hard work, it's work worth doing. And that's kind of what I grew up with. And of course, like a lot of people, when it was time for me to find my own way, I gravitated towards a place like Lloydminster, a place where there is opportunity and a chance to lay down some permanent roots. And that's what brought me out here, starting my teaching career, because that's always been something, a lifelong dream that I wanted to do, and finding that right fit was very important. And I'm very thankful that where that right fit was northwestern Saskatchewan, up in Paradise Hill, and it's a school that I have really come to love, and a community that I really come to love and do a lot in. So that's what's kind of brought me out here.
Adam, if you were to win this election and represent Lloydminster, would you still teach, or what would happen to the career kind of thing?
Yeah, I'm going to assume I'm not taking anything for granted, right? I'm not saying like, oh, we're going to win everything. No, I'm not taking anything for granted. I'm taking it day by day, and I'm working hard, knocking on doors and talking to people. And if I were to win, that's something that we have to look at and see, like, can I balance both? Those are serious questions that will have to get answered. And if I could, I definitely would. I love what I do. But at the same time, a job like an MLA is an all-encompassing job. And there's a lot of work that goes into that. And I'm dedicated to doing the work that has to get done. Not just advocacy, but action. Making sure that we can actually deliver on the promises and the things that we want to do for the riding of Lloydminster and for all of Saskatchewan.
You mentioned knocking on doors. Where have you been knocking on doors, and what are you hearing?
So I've gone, I think I'm in almost every poll within the city of Lloydminster so far. I think there's maybe one or two that I haven't got a chance to knock on. From the north to the south to the middle, I've kind of been everywhere. I really wanted to get a sense of as many people as possible, and that's why I haven't focused on just doing one poll or one area. I really want to spread out. And time again, the biggest thing that I'm hearing is healthcare. A lot of healthcare workers I've talked to are just feeling that strain, feeling that burnout, they are ready to talk too, because like, I start my little spiel because of course I have to have a little spiel, and I talk about our three big front of mind issues that I feel and the SAS NDP feel that are in front of mind of most of the electorates, healthcare, education, and affordability. And the people just kind of look at me and go, yeah, those are the issues. And then almost immediately they start talking about whether it's wait times in hospitals, or if I'm talking to a healthcare worker, they're just like, I'm just so burnt out, I'm just so tired. And they really want to talk. And I'm so happy that I get to be there to listen and to say, hey, listen, there can be help on the way. Like, we have a plan to address these issues and to get us out of last place in healthcare. That's the biggest one that I'm hearing for sure.
Healthcare is the biggest one. I hear all the time, like, we've been focusing on homelessness. That's been a big one. What are you hearing when you knock on people's doors in Lloydminster about homelessness?
Oh, and absolutely, that is something that comes up as well, right? There are a lot of issues right now in terms of the homelessness. They're more visible now than I think we've ever seen. And, I've been out here for more than a decade, and I can definitely say, there has been a big influx and a big change that's been happening there. And it all does kind of tie back into healthcare, because it ties back into how are we helping with our addictions and mental health services. Because the inadequacies that we're seeing with funding for things like that is something that is driving up the issues with homelessness. How we are dealing with issues of affordability are driving them up. There's so many things. You have to cast a really wide net to be able to help people with homelessness and things like that. So there's no one targeted thing that we're going to be able to do to completely solve that and make it disappear overnight. There's a lot of little things that we have to start doing, and I think for sure one of them is getting our local communities and the support groups that we have within those local communities the kind of sustained and predictable funding that they need to operate at the level that they need to, because the demand on these groups has definitely gotten higher as well. So these are definitely issues that come up, and definitely things, like I said, it's going to be a wide net that we have to cast, but absolutely it's something that needs to get done. You have to have empathy for those people who are struggling right now, especially like we were just talking before, things are starting to get a little cold. I couldn't imagine being out there right now when frost is starting to set in and things are going down temperature-wise. Like, you got to have empathy for people like that, but it's a wide net of things that we definitely have to do to address it. And again, those are things that I feel like the Sask NDP plan addresses, or tries their best to address.
In Lloydminster, it's become an issue with the men's shelter. That's particularly the biggest place where I'm hearing is a concern for residents around that area. The men's shelter wants to expand, Adam. Do you agree that they should expand, and is that the area to expand in?
It's very funny that you mentioned that too. I had the benefit of meeting Kagan, actually. I went to talk to the RM of Britannia, and he actually spoke before me. He's a very good public speaker, and he's a great advocate for the homeless in this area. Tough act to follow, for sure. And when it comes to expanding, like I said, these different community groups are having more and more asked of them. So they are going to have to expand, for sure. But what we need to recognize as well is the community. The community needs to be involved in a decision like that, and they need to be listened to. And we have to find the balance of how best to address the expansion of something like the Lloydminster Men's Shelter. They keep getting asked to do more and more, and the best part is you have someone in Kagan who wants to do more. So that's a pretty good combination. But what they also need is that predictable and sustainable funding so that they can address those issues. And that's another thing that they're just not getting. I mean, you look at what Kagan had to do to raise money, right? He had to take quite the long run. But I would, again, like I said, I would balance that with making sure that the community is listened to and involved in the decision of where to put something like that. And that's absolutely something that, as your representative, I'm going to make sure that I'm involved in, and making sure that the community's concerns are heard in a situation like that, and make sure that it's going to benefit as many people as possible. And that includes the people who live in Lloydminster and the people who are unfortunately homeless at this time as well, who take benefits from that.
Do you think that's the location to do it in?
Again, with the community in the community feeling about it the way that it is, you got to take that into account. You got it, because people have to feel safe again. You know, crime rates in Saskatchewan have been going up. especially under Scott Moe and the Sask Party. And that's completely understandable, that people want to feel safe in their communities. That's pretty basic. So you have to look into all possible options. You can't just say, oh, it's got to be here. Well, let's weigh our options. Let's see.
Crime has been one of the biggest topics in this election as well, particularly in Lloydminster, where the mayor has said that one of the reasons, or one of the things that he would like to see is more police officers, and that would mean more funding from the Saskatchewan government, who doesn't fund police officers, RCMP officers in this community. What can you do about that, Adam?
I find that really interesting because they always say like, oh, you know, previous administrations, we changed from a K to an F or whatever the sectioning was that changed how we fund the RCMP. And honestly, I do feel like that's a little bit of a cop-out to blame the previous administration or anything like that. What we have to recognize is that the Police Act is something that we need to look into. It's almost 30 years old, and obviously things have changed. But it should be disgraceful, honestly, that we over-rely on the Alberta side to fund all of these services in Saskatchewan, including the RCMP. And we absolutely need to invest in our local RCMP. You're right. I've gotten a number of emails from concerned citizens asking, like, what is your stance on the RCMP? And I can say unequivocally, my stance is we don't need any other fancy police force that doesn't even have boots on the ground. We don't need a marshal service. We don't need anything like that. We need to take the money that we put aside for that marshal service, that $20 million, and we need to put $10 million of that towards policing in Saskatchewan, and that includes the RCMP. Why are we training up an entire new force that has to get off the ground and figure its footing and figure out how to work within the system when we have a system in place that needs investment, that needs an actual boost, that actually needs to be addressed? We already have it. We just need to invest in it. So absolutely, we need to make sure that we look into things like the Police Act, and we need to invest in RCMP in our province.
Lloydminster is such a different place. Like, everything has to do with two provincial governments. Mm-hmm. We've seen the Sask Party say that, you know, they would hold and try to do a special memorandum in January here with the mayor. It's one of the things he brought up at the oil show when he had both premiers here, is that he would like to see them come back in January. They both sort of committed to that. Of course, Premier Moe couldn't commit to being there if he isn't in government. But I've often asked Colleen, it must be so frustrating to have to remind your government all the time that Lloydminster is separate. It is so different from every other community. How do you plan on addressing the Lloydminster border situation?
Again, like, we need to recognize the importance of a city like Lloydminster, and we need to make sure that we have representatives and leadership who recognize the importance of this border city and make sure that they are listening to the concerns of this area, because too many of the services that we are supposed to provide for people are not getting adequately funded by the Saskatchewan side of the government, and that's not fair. And that's one thing that we're trying to do as Saskatchewan New Democrats is really push for the idea of transparency and fairness in government once again. And that's something that Carla Beck and our entire team is dedicated to doing. Right? It's not just going to fall on my shoulders, like it just apparently only falls on Colleen's shoulders, to make sure that the people of Lloydminster are listened to. It's going to be something that the entire party understands. And I can tell you right now, I've already started that advocacy, because whenever, you know, I have an opportunity to talk to my teammates in the Saskatchewan NDP, I always remind them, and I say, hey guys, listen, remember, Lloydminster is different. And they are, yeah, you're right. That's right, Adam. Thanks for bringing that up again, because they're listening to our concerns. And that's something that's resonating with them. And they understand the importance of a border city like Lloydminster, because it's unique, it's different, and it's so lucky that we get to live here on a border city like that. And that's how we should feel. We shouldn't feel like we're not getting what we need. We should feel privileged to be in a spot like this. And that's something that I would obviously push for more and more, like I already am.
How do you push back against people, Adam, who say, well, we saw the NDP in Alberta, so half of Saskatchewan was under an NDP government here as little as 2 years ago. Well, it was a little bit more than that. 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But we never saw an NDP leader visit the community. That's got to be tough on you. Like that must be an uphill battle to say. When Rachel Notley and the NDP were in Alberta, she never once visited the community. It must give citizens a little concern. Are you hearing anything like that when you knock on doors?
I'm not really hearing a lot of things like that, but I do want to clarify, we are a different party, right? Times have changed, and the Saskatchewan NDP have changed as well. And we understand the complexities, kind of what's happening right now in all of Saskatchewan. But I would push for our leaders to come here more often, obviously, so that they can really get a sense of this unique environment and understand what it's all about. Because again, this should be a major center in Saskatchewan, a major center for healthcare, for education, for affordability. This should be something that we highlight as much as possible. And I think that seeing it turn orange in the provincial election would definitely turn some eyes and would definitely bring a lot more attention to us for sure.
Affordability is something you just brought up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm shocked it's not more of a issue in the election. But what can you do for a city who, because I know from watching Carla Beck last night saying we'll remove the PST on children's clothing, we'll remove the PST on groceries, but here in Lloydminster, we don't really worry about that. So how do you address the affordability issue in Lloydminster?
Yeah, again, it's one of those things that make Lloydminster so unique and so special. But there's so much more to the affordability than just removing the PST. There's also the suspension of the gas tax. That's 15 cents off a liter, and we do that day one if we're elected on the 28th, because again, that's an instant change that people would see immediately at the pumps, and that's something that's going to give them a little bit of a reprise from everything that's been happening with things getting more and more expensive. But even here in Lloydminster, we're not safe from the Sask party raising our taxes or slapping the PST unfavorably on a bunch of different things that it never was really on before. This is a government that has slapped the PST on more and more of our daily purchases. I know last night we had a question about how, there's more PST now being added to our hotel fees and things like that, but let's look at used vehicles. Like, that's a PST tax grab that I just don't understand. Oh, we're going to make you pay tax on your vehicle. Sure, fine. I understand that, right? I get that. And those taxes are going to go towards our roads and our infrastructure and our schools and our hospitals. Fine. But then if I purchase that vehicle and I own it and I go and sell it, why do I have to pay PST on that once again? And then if that person who bought it from me decides to sell it and they have to pay tax on it, things like that don't make sense, and these are ways that the Sask party have been sneaking more and more taxation on us that can affect us, even here in Lloydminster, where, like you said, we get the benefit of not having the PST on everything, but we're still starting to feel a little bit more of that tax burden that, again, it's not very fair in that situation. But there's so much more to affordability than just the gas tax, because there are other things that we want to bring into place that we would see here in Lloydminster, like actually committing to the $10 a day daycare. Well, that's going to save families and parents a lot of money right there. The Sask party government, they said that, oh yeah, we support it and we're going to put it into place, but they really haven't put enough action behind that yet, and that's something that we absolutely have to get on. Same thing with the school lunch program that we've committed to as part of our education funding. That's another thing that's going to save families money. There's so much more than just changing those taxes that we want to do for affordability.
I thought I heard Scott Moe mention that the $10 daycare had saved so many people dollars, but the biggest thing with that was he hadn't credited the federal government. So it hasn't, I don't have kids in daycare, but that hasn't come in Saskatchewan?
It hasn't really been pushed very hard yet. We haven't really made the investments into those areas to make sure that it's more available. There's obviously demand for something like the $10 a day daycare, but it's not in every community. It's not widely available to everyone. We'd make sure that we would invest and have that more available as much as possible, because it's worth taking advantage of. And again, it's also something that in return helps our economy, right? If you invest in those public daycare spaces, you're investing in workers that have to run those public daycare spaces, that enter into a grid and get paid a good wage. And now all of a sudden you're encouraging economic growth while also having your kids being taken care of in a place that has to hit certain standards. It makes sense. And that's another thing too, we've said it before and we'll say it again, we'll stand up for Saskatchewan. But if the federal government comes forward with something that can benefit us, we're going to take a look at it, because that's important. If we can benefit from something, yeah, we'll benefit. Something like $10 a day daycare, for example. But if they bring up something that doesn't benefit us, then yeah, we're going to stand up for Saskatchewan, and we're going to let it be known that, yeah, we're not going to do that. And that's an important thing to make sure that we have that balanced relationship with the federal government.
You mentioned taking the gas tax away. And would you continue what Scott Moe has done by taking the carbon tax off of, and I know this affects some of your constituents and not everybody, but he has taken the carbon tax off of heating your home, unless it's propane, of course.
Right.
But here in Lloydminster, like for example, I live on the Saskatchewan side. I'm not getting, because I have to purchase my natural gas from an Alberta supplier. I'm not getting that relief that we see. But would you guys continue to do what Scott Moe has done, taking the carbon tax off of home heating?
Yeah, we would, in fact, because again, we understand the importance of affordability, and that is something that people feel they're benefiting from. So we absolutely would continue that for sure. The other thing to keep in mind too is under Carla Beck, things have been different, right? She's come out against the carbon tax, and in fact has sent letters to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Pierre Poilievre, and Jagmeet Singh outlining the fact that we are in favor of scrapping the carbon tax. It's no longer popular or viable, and it's something that we need to make sure is known, and outlined her plan to stand up for Saskatchewan regardless of who is in charge in Ottawa. And I think that's something that's really important for people to understand is we are the Saskatchewan New Democratic Party. We are going to stand up for Saskatchewan as much as possible. And we understand their concerns, especially around the carbon tax. And yeah, we would continue with that for sure.
So you take the carbon tax off home heating and do the gas tax relief?
Oh yeah.
How long is the gas tax relief?
6 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
The concern has always been, when I've approached members of the Saskatchewan Party, it's, if we do that, how do we pay for roads? How does the NDP pay for roads if we take that off? And we saw in Manitoba where they did it for 6 months. They've kind of worked themselves into a corner where they had to do it again. Mm-hmm. How do you pay for roads?
Yeah, this is something that does come up quite a bit as well. And what we need to understand is that the money that is collected through the gas tax doesn't go into a specific fund for infrastructure. It goes into general revenue. So nothing changes with our infrastructure budget because all the money that we collect goes into that general revenue. So it's not changing anything. And we have fully costed our platform. Everything is available online right now, saskndp.ca/plan. You can also check me out on Facebook. And everything is fully costed so that people understand, yes, we are going to suspend the gas tax for 6 months. Here's how much that's going to cost. But it's not changing our commitment to infrastructure. It's not changing any of the commitments that we've made during this election. Everything is fully costed for you to see exactly how we're going to spend your tax dollars because that transparency is important.
Oil is huge in this area. Mm-hmm. And one of the things we heard at the oil show was that producers are really happy with what they're seeing in Saskatchewan right now. Mm-hmm. What do you propose to make them happier? What do you like about what the Saskatchewan Party is doing? What would you take away?
Well, I wouldn't take anything away for starters because I think that we need to understand that oil and gas is incredibly important to Saskatchewan. It's one of the many resources that we are lucky to have here in Saskatchewan and to be able to take advantage of and to enrich our lives with. So we've committed to not raising taxes, and that includes not changing anything with our oil and gas sector. We don't want to add any more uncertainty to them, and we don't want them to feel as though jobs may get lost. Absolutely not. What we want to see economically in the province is making sure that our 7 other economic sectors are also feeling that benefit, right? We want to raise as many of our sectors up as possible, including small business. And what's important there is those small businesses tend to work with our larger oil and gas companies as well. So if we can make our small business stronger, if we can invest in those small businesses and get them into a more comfortable position, well, they're going to be able to contribute to our larger producers, and they're going to be able to make a better life for themselves and for everyone else in Saskatchewan. So for that, we've also committed to freezing the small business tax. I mean, this is such a good idea. 43 days after we announced it, the Sask Party said that they're going to do it. So we must be doing something right if they're looking at our platform and going, oh, that was a good idea. So that's another area where we can address and we can help and make sure that all of our sectors are doing well. And that includes our oil and gas.
When we talk about the NDP, the pushback is always 17 years ago, the NDP, and I can hear my parents saying, look, there under the NDP, there were hospital closures, there were school closures, we had 2 sons leave the province. What do you say when, because you hear that all the time. You heard that last night directly from your opponent. What's your pushback on the 17 years ago? There were people leaving this country, or leaving this province, and now we've seen a population increase. Because we have seen a population increase under the Saskatchewan Party.
Yeah, again, like you said, that's absolutely something that we do hear a lot of. But what I want to stress is that those who have been in charge for the last 17 years, the Sask Party, the decisions that they are making now are what are causing the issues that we see now. 30 years ago, it happened, and we understand that, and we understand the frustration around that. But we have to recognize that where we are right now and where we're going in the future is important, and that's what makes this election so important. We are last place in healthcare. We are last place in education. Life is getting more and more expensive, and there is so much more the provincial government can be doing to address those concerns and address those issues, and they're not. You look at their platform, they talk all about this growth, population growth, like you said, and all of this economic growth. But that platform does not take into account how that growth is going to affect our services. And there's no new money coming for healthcare or education. So if we're having all this population growth, but we're not investing any more into our healthcare or our education, what is that other than a service cut? That would be my pushback. 4 more years of lack of funding in healthcare, 4 more years and lack of funding in education is not going to get us any better. That's what we have to think about, not the past, the future. And we have a plan to address these issues. $2 billion into education, $1.1 billion into healthcare, making sure that we can get ourselves at a last place, hire more workers in both fields, making sure that we're making life more affordable. These are the things that we need to think about on October 28th.
Adam brought up healthcare and he brought up education, and we haven't even touched on that yet. So we will take a break and we'll come back and we'll dig into healthcare and education.
At Diamond 7 Meats, we work with local farm families to provide a high-quality product and a great selection for you. Try our mouth-watering smokies, pulled pork, roast beef, and more, made pure and natural with no additives or fillers. We offer custom processing, and our experienced team works for you to provide a selection of sausage, burgers, and jerkies made to your specifications. Take your grilling to the next level with a Yoder smoker. Complete the grilling experience with a Canadian-made, award-winning line of House of Q barbecue sauces. We're locally owned and operated, and we look forward to seeing you today.
I'm Brian Zinchuk of PipelineOnline.ca. I used to be a pipeliner, and I've spent the last 15 years reporting on energy in Saskatchewan. PipelineOnline.ca provides comprehensive coverage of light oil, heavy oil, lithium, helium, power production including coal, wind, solar, geothermal, natural gas, and nuclear. There's a lot happening in Saskatchewan's energy sector, and Pipeline Online is there for all of it. No one else comes even close.
At CK McKean Roofing, they understand what it took to put that roof over your head for your family. With over 20 years of experience under their belt, they strive to show you that with their workmanship and their integrity. Not all roofing companies are created equal. And that's why CK McKean Roofing encourages you to focus on your most important investments, your home and your family. CK McKean Roofing. Roofers do it on top.
At Synergy Credit Union, we're more than just a financial institution. We're your partners in every step of your journey. From supporting local businesses to enhancing community life, we're committed to making a difference. Join us in shaping a brighter future. Together, we thrive, because this is Synergy.
Welcome back inside the new Lloydminster Nissan, and we have Adam Tremblay here, who is running for the NDP in the Lloydminster riding. Voting starts on October 22nd, and it runs for 6 days. There's a pause for Sunday. There's no voting on Sunday. Then October 28th is the big day where we get results, or we hope to get results. It often, if it's close and things like that, can go into the late hours and early mornings of the next day. We will see on October the 28th, though. So Adam has given us some time here this morning. We appreciate it. And Adam is a teacher in Paradise Hill. So I know he wants to talk a lot about education. Now, all I understand about education is that it has gone to a binding arbitrator. And I talked a lot last spring to Derek Armstrong here in Lloydminster about some of the teachers' concerns and things like that. Adam, I'm surprised to hear it's still an issue, being that it's in arbitration. How can things change after the arbitrator rules?
Well, I don't know if I said this before, but my story, what brought me here, is that teacher action that happened last year between the strike days, the loss of extracurricular activities, and the stress of having to deal with this government at the negotiating table. That's what has brought me to this moment to be running in this election. So education is near and dear to my heart. And I've seen in the 10 years plus that I've been teaching how much my classroom has changed. The resources that I have access to, my access to things like EAs, my shop budgets that keep getting cut because, right, that's something that's easy to take a little bit of money from every now and then. But also how my class complexity has changed. And those things haven't changed back magically because we're going to arbitration. Arbitration will be able to resolve some of the issues for sure, but we need to address the core issues, which are class size and complexity. And that's why teachers fought so hard last year to make sure that that got included in the arbiter and make sure that we're discussing it, because it has to get discussed. We can't keep kicking that can down the road and expect things to just magically get better. It's going to take investment. It's going to take work. And thankfully, the Saskatchewan NDP have said that for arbitration, that's our floor, not our ceiling. That's our starting point with talking with teachers. And that made me feel a lot more relief, particularly when I decided to take on this run, to know that that's their starting position. That did help a lot. But of course, what also helps a lot, like I said, is investment. $2 billion over 4 years to get us at a last place in education is incredibly important. And that's not just money that we're throwing at the problem or anything like that. Not at all. What we're doing with that investment is we're sitting down with divisions, with the STF, with as many of our educational stakeholders as possible and saying, where can we put this money to do the most good? We need to hire more teachers. We need to hire more EAs. We need to make sure that we're supporting our classrooms, mental health supports in schools as well, right? These are all things that we need to start doing now. We can't push this off any longer. And thankfully, what we're offering this time around in education is generational, right? So that's going to be something that I push for very hard as a teacher myself, because I see it every day. I see how my classroom has changed. And I know that we can't continue down this road. We need to invest in our classrooms again.
So I as I mentioned, I don't have kids in the school system and things like that, but what I see is, I saw 2 expansions in Lloydminster for the Lloyd Comp and the Holy Rosary High School. And so I go, isn't Saskatchewan Party investing in education? Because I've seen that expansion here in Lloydminster.
Yeah, everything's always record investment with them, but when you're constantly cutting education and just every so often in every different place, adding money here, adding money there, you're not feeling that across the board. And while Lloydminster has been very fortunate to get those expansions, as a teacher who teaches in the rural area, I can tell you that we're not feeling that out there, and we're not feeling that across Saskatchewan either. You had some classrooms in Regina and Saskatoon reaching 40 students. You've had spaces that used to be reserved for like a student lounge being turned into a classroom because you suddenly don't have enough room for the amount of students that are coming in. It's incredibly important that Lloydminster got those expansions built, but we need to make sure that we are properly supported across the board in education so that every student has the opportunities to get that high quality education that I know, I'm a little biased, I'm a teacher, I know that we're trying to deliver on the daily basis, but it's become increasingly harder in some areas to be able to do that. And to be fair, Lloydminster is no different. There's more and more being asked of those teachers. They may have the space, but they don't have the supports.
Let's go to healthcare. Doctors are leaving the province. We've seen nurses saying that they don't have the life and work balance that they would like to have. We've seen beds in hallways, long waits at emergencies. But Adam, we've seen this in a lot of provinces. What makes Saskatchewan different?
I do kind of want to call out just a little bit, because I did see the interview with Colleen yesterday, and I didn't really appreciate the way that she said that, somewhat condescendingly, that healthcare workers need to work on their work-life balance, because I don't think that's fair to what's happening inside of our hospitals right now. They're doing the best that they can right now, and what they're saying to us is they need support. Like you said, it is an issue across Canada with healthcare. Saskatchewan is no different. But what is different is that the Sask Party is simply ignoring the problem. They're saying, oh, we're investing in what's working in healthcare. Well, what's working? Because what I hear on the front steps from the healthcare workers that I've been fortunate enough to talk to, you're right, they feel burnt out. They feel like they're not being listened to. They feel like they're going to have to leave. And in fact, we saw over 4,000 healthcare workers leave the last year. Sask Party's quick to tell us how many they've hired, but they're not really telling us how many are actually leaving the profession. And we can't have that happen right now. What our healthcare workers have said they need is support, and they need someone willing to listen to them. And that's what the Saskatchewan NDP is offering. $1.1 billion over 4 years on top of what's already been offered, to ensure that our doctors and our nurses are supported, that we're hiring more healthcare workers. It's so funny, right? You know, when you start doing this and you start learning some things, it's so funny, because with an investment like that, you can take a casual part-time position and just make it permanent full-time. And that's going to be instantly more attractive to somebody who might be living somewhere else in the province, or might be living in another province or another country, to be like, oh, yeah, maybe I will give that a try. And that's where a lot of our investment is going to go with this $1.1 billion. It is dedicated to recruiting and improving the training of the people that we have. So not only do we want to recruit more, but we want to make sure that we grow our own, right? We take the healthcare workers that we have now, who are living in those areas, who know those areas best, and we want to train them up. If you want to become an RN, if you're a nurse practitioner, or if you're an LPN, you want to move up, then we should be there to help you along that way, because you're going to be more likely to stay in that area and to support that area as a healthcare worker. So absolutely, these are things that we can do and can bring into the area with an investment in education. That's the most important thing right there. We need to invest, and we need to listen. That's another thing that we want to do. We want to get a health and human services roundtable and listen to our healthcare workers, because they're the ones who know how best to help in their local areas and how best to support them so that they can do their job better. And right now they're not getting that opportunity to talk and to be heard. So something as simple as bringing in that healthcare roundtable, something as simple as the nurses have asked for a task force for years. Like, these are simple, no-cost things that we can do to make sure that we're opening up those lines of communication more and improving the frontline morale, because that has been broken. And that's something that we also need to make sure that is being fixed, because if a healthcare worker is feeling like they're not being listened to, they're more likely, or disrespected, they're more likely to leave that profession. So there's so much that we have to do in healthcare, but it's not impossible. And these are things that we absolutely can achieve.
One of the things that's come up is retention planning. Saskatchewan Party has said that they will invest some money in retention and offer some incentives for doctors and nurses to stay in this province, being educated in this province. Is that something the NDP plans on doing with that investment in healthcare?
Oh, absolutely, because we want to grow and retain the workers that we have. So that's absolutely something that we're committed to doing in our platform with healthcare. As much as possible, we want to make sure that the people in those local areas who know best how to deliver healthcare in those local areas are getting trained up, are getting access to what they need so that they can offer healthcare better in their areas. And that's not the only spot too. Like, we also want to make sure that we bring back our local health advisory networks. Because like you said, and we've said a few times already today, Lloydminster is a very special area. So we want to make sure that those local areas can have a say in how their healthcare is being delivered, to make sure that it's meeting the standards of care that we need to be meeting.
What do you see in healthcare that needs addressing specifically in Lloydminster?
I think one of the biggest for me, and it's because I had the opportunity to meet, and I actually even got to announce a few things when I met with the Lloydminster Concerned Citizens for Seniors Care Society. Nailed it. It was a very eye-opening opportunity to speak with that group and to hear some of the things that they are concerned about, and getting the reports, because I was able to get access to 2 reports. One report that was printed in 2013, outlining how our health services are not being met. That was over 10 years ago, the entire time that Colleen Young has been the representative for Lloydminster. That was over 10 years ago that document was created, and we're no further along in addressing the issues that were outlined in there, especially with our aging Lloydminster Hospital. And I'm going to bring up Jubilee Home as well, because the fact that the number of long-term care beds in Saskatchewan has remained unchanged essentially since the 80s. And we've over-relied on Alberta to provide those long-term care beds is disgraceful. These are things that needed to get moved along long before now. And these are issues that came up in meeting with that group, and are absolutely things that are more on my radar now that need to get addressed than ever before. And, we're starting that process along a little bit. I was able to take their proposal for the Jubilee Home and get it in front of as many eyes as I can now in the Saskatchewan NDP to make sure that this is on their radar too. And say, hey, guys, listen, I just got this. We need to look into it. This is a big issue and a big concern for the local area. So let's get some wheels turning on that. In the meantime, though, we have some things for seniors as well that I feel are really important. Like I said, and I said this at the debates last night too, because I decided to be a little bit selfish. I actually got to announce something that was not formally announced in the platform on Writ Drop Day to that Lloydminster Concerned Citizens group. And I got to talk about how, the Saskatchewan NDP, we're going to bring in a Seniors Bill of Rights, so that those standards of care that used to be on the books but were taken off the books by the Sask Party in 2011, by law are there again, so that seniors can point to this law and say, hey, listen, I have certain standards that my care needs to meet. So we can no longer, ignore our seniors in that regard. And of course, bringing in a dedicated seniors advocate, similar to the child and youth advocate. This is someone who's not on any party or anything like that. Their sole job is to make sure that the voice of seniors is being heard whenever government is making decisions. So these are things that we can do in the meantime, while we start to get into those really important issues of, okay, we need to move forward on Jubilee Home. We need to start looking into the Lloydminster Hospital. These are things that are time sensitive, and we need to start looking into more.
There's a lot of dollars going into the NDP plan. A lot of people have said, how do you pay for it though? And I don't really I'm not one of these guys who's going to go look at budgets, Adam. I don't think a lot of people are. So in simple terms, how do you pay for all this when you're cutting PST, when you're cutting a lot of things down? Where does that money come from when all we have is resources and taxation?
Right. The important thing to know here in Saskatchewan, we don't have an issue with money. We have more than enough money. In fact, our operational budget is something over $20 billion. Billion with a B. That's a lot of money. And just you and I talking today, what we've talked about as terms of promises from the Sask NDP amounts to about $3.1, $3.5 billion over 4 years. So we're talking about a small drop in the bucket of our overall economic outlook. And that's what we need to realize. It's not an issue of money in Saskatchewan. It's an issue of money management. That's the issue. The Sask Party has been incredibly wasteful with our tax dollars. Worst of all, they're wasteful with our tax dollars and not very honest or transparent with where that money is going. You look, for example, at the AIMS system that they brought into place. We bought this system from Alberta. I think it was originally supposed to cost something like $80 million. That's ballooned to almost $150 million for an AIMS system that's supposed to pay our doctors and track, how much they've worked. And it's not really doing either of those right now. That's wasteful spending. That's the kind of wasteful spending that we're going to do away with to save a little bit of money. But again, it's not an issue of do we have the money to pay for it? We do. And we need to start prioritizing the things that we prioritize: our healthcare, our affordability, and our education. We need to manage that money better, and a fully costed platform that has all the bells and whistles. Like you said, Because I'm the same way. Like, I see the table, I'm like, I understand. I see where the dollars and cents are. But at the end of the day, it's not just that we have delivered that fully costed platform, but we are going to manage our money more carefully. And we even actually have a lot of people who have come out in support of the economic outlook that we put out there, including, I think it was Ron Stiles, who's former CEO of SaskTel, former deputy finance minister under Brad Wall. Even he's come out and given us the seal of approval on the numbers that we put forward and supported our economic outlook. So, you know, it's those two things that I would rely on when I'm thinking about, can we afford it? Money management and getting that kind of endorsement on our platform.
Adam, I've kept you way longer than I said I would, but I want to offer you some time in case I've forgotten to ask you anything that you think is important for this constituency to know.
What I need this constituency to know, and I want to say thank you so much for this opportunity. This has actually been a lot of fun for me. But what I need this constituency to know is that things are different now. It's 2024, and we need to start looking towards the future. And we need to make sure that the next 4 years are the 4 years that invest in the things that are important to us, getting back to basics and the things that we feel are important. I'd say the only thing that we can't afford this election is another 4 years of Scott Moe and the Sass Party. It's time for a change, and I hope on October 28th I've convinced you to take a look at the Saskatchewan NDP and to vote for me.
Thank you, Adam. Appreciate your time.
Yeah.
So once again, the election starts next week already, October 22nd. You can vote at advance polls with the actual election day being October the 28th. And we look forward to continuing more coverage of the Saskatchewan election. And we look forward to talking to you again next week when we plan to get into the municipal election that is coming up just around the corner as well. We'll have a more focus on that as people start voting in the Saskatchewan election. And who knows, we may have a federal election before Christmas as well. And if we do, we'll cover that as well. Thanks for watching.